Welcome to EtherLink AI Insights. I'm Alex, and today we're diving into something that's reshaping enterprise AI in 2026. Agentic AI systems that actually work in production. We're talking governance, compliance, cost optimization, the stuff that keeps CTOs up at night. Sam, this feels like a real inflection point for the industry.
Absolutely, Alex. And what's wild is the numbers backing this up. Gartner's projecting 72% of enterprises will have agentic AI in production by 2026. But here's the catch. Most organizations are still stuck in the experimental phase, treating AI like a chatbot proof of concept. Agentic systems are fundamentally different. They don't just answer questions, they execute decisions autonomously.
That's a huge distinction. So an agentic system is like hiring an AI employee who can break down complex tasks, use tools, recover from errors, and log everything for the audit trail. McKinsey's data shows 58% of enterprises prioritize workflow automation and autonomous decision-making over chatbots. That's a 23-point spread. What's driving that shift?
Cost and scale, mainly. When you're automating a single customer service query, a chatbot works. But when you need to process hundreds of invoice reconciliations, coordinate cross-system workflows, or make compliance-sensitive decisions in real time, you need an agent that can reason, handle failures, and keep an audit trail. The old static AI pipelines just can't compete.
And we're seeing this especially in regulated industries: banking, healthcare, insurance. EU AI Act compliance isn't optional anymore. Talk us through what governed agentic systems actually means in practice.
Governed agentic systems have three pillars. First, they're built on transparent architectures where every decision is traceable. Second, they integrate compliance checkpoints, EU AI Act requirements around transparency, bias monitoring, and human oversight. Third, they use cost-efficient smaller language models for routine tasks and only escalate to larger models when reasoning gets complex. It's not one monolithic AI doing everything, it's a coordinated ecosystem.
That's smart architecture. You mentioned smaller language models, SLMs, as a key lever. Models like Phi 3 or Mistral 7B. Why are those suddenly competitive with GPT-class models for enterprise workflows?
Three reasons: cost, latency, and fine-tuning capability. An SLM running on premises costs a fraction of API calls to large models. Latency is measured in milliseconds instead of seconds, and they're small enough to fine-tune on proprietary data without burning through GPU budgets. For 80% of enterprise tasks, data extraction, classification, routing, SLMs are overkill in capability but perfect in efficiency.
So you're not throwing away the big models, you're being strategic about when to use them. That ties into RAG, Retrieval Augmented Generation. A lot of enterprises think RAG is just vector search plus language model, fetch and generate. But the blog talks about production RAG being far messier.
Messier is generous. In production, you're juggling real-time ingestion from multiple sources: APIs, databases, file systems. You're managing vector database scaling, handling multilingual content, domain-specific jargon, and technical documents. And here's the kicker: simple semantic search alone introduces hallucination. We've seen production systems reduce hallucination by 47% by combining semantic search with keyword search and intelligent re-ranking. It's hybrid retrieval, not just vectors.
47% is significant. Walk me through what that hybrid approach looks like step by step.
You start with semantic search, embedding the query and fetching similar documents from your vector database. But you run that in parallel with keyword search like BN25, which catches exact matches your semantic search might miss. Then you fuse those results, re-rank them, and let a language model make the final call on relevance before generating. It sounds redundant, but it catches edge cases semantic-only systems completely miss. Plus, the chunking strategy matters. Fixed-size chunks work for simple documents, but production RAG needs intelligent chunking based on document structure and metadata.
So your retrieval pipeline is doing real intellectual work, not just plugging vectors into an LLM black box. And then you need source attribution and audit trails for compliance. That's not free. How do organizations manage that overhead?
MCP, Model Context Protocol, is emerging as the standard here. It's a framework that orchestrates how agents interact with data sources, tools, and services. Instead of building custom integrations for each API or database, you define MCP servers that handle the protocol uniformly. Your agent queries through MCP, gets back not just data but provenance, where it came from, when it was retrieved, what version of the document. That audit trail is automatic, not bolt-on.
So MCP is like a standardized API layer that doesn't just move data around, but tracks metadata and governance in real time. That sounds like it would unlock multi-agent systems too. You mentioned orchestrating multi-agent workflows. How does that scale?
Multi-agent systems work when you have clear task decomposition. One agent handles document retrieval and summarization, another validates outputs against compliance rules, a third escalates to humans when confidence drops below thresholds. MCP lets these agents communicate deterministically. They pass structured context through the protocol, so each agent knows exactly what it's working with. Without that standardization, you get data loss, inconsistent formatting, compliance gaps.
And you mentioned earlier that organizations deploying agentic systems see 35–40% operational cost reduction within 12 months. That's massive. Where do those savings come from?
3 areas. Labor automation, handling routine decisions without human intervention. Model efficiency, using SLMs for 80% of tasks instead of expensive APIs. And error reduction, agentic systems catch and recover from failures that would otherwise escalate to manual review. A banking client we worked with saved $2 million annually on payment reconciliation by deploying a 3-agent workflow that handled 99.7% of transactions autonomously. The 0.3% that flagged issues? Humans reviewed those in minutes instead of hours.
So the ROI isn't theoretical. It's happening now, even though we're not at 2026 yet. For enterprises building this today, what's the critical first step? Do you start with RAG, MCP, SLMs? What's the sequence?
Start with a clear use case, something with repeatable, high-volume tasks that humans currently handle. Document that workflow in detail. Where does data come from? What decisions get made? What are the failure modes? Then build a proof of concept with RAG first, because data retrieval is your foundation. Once retrieval is solid, and you've validated that re-ranking and source attribution work, layer in agent autonomy, decompose the workflow into steps, add tool integration. MCP comes next to formalize those integrations and enable compliance. Finally, optimize model selection. Replace large models with SLMs where they perform equivalently. This sequence keeps risk manageable and lets you validate at each stage.
That's a really pragmatic roadmap. And EU AI Act Compliance, is that built in at each stage or is it a final gate?
It's built in from day one. EU AI Act compliance for agentic systems means transparency about how decisions are made, logs, audit trails, explainability. Bias monitoring. You're tracking model outputs across demographic groups to catch skew. Human oversight. High-stakes decisions have a human-in-the-loop checkpoint. If you bolt compliance on at the end, you'll have to rebuild. Better to architect for it. MCP and RAG with proper source attribution actually make compliance easier. The system is designed to explain itself by default.
So governance is a feature, not friction. That's a mindset shift for a lot of organizations used to moving fast and breaking things. Sam, what's one thing you think enterprises are underestimating about Agentic AI in 2026?
The operational burden of keeping these systems running. Agentic systems are more complex than chatbots, more moving parts, more failure modes. Organizations need observability, monitoring, and a team that understands how agents decompose tasks and interact with external systems. You can't just launch an agent and walk away. That hidden cost often blindsides teams.
And that's why the production-ready piece is so critical. This isn't theoretical architecture. It's about systems that actually run 24/7 in regulated environments. Folks, if you want the full deep dive on RAG chunking strategies, MCP server design, SLM fine-tuning for enterprise tasks, and EU AI Act compliance checkpoints, head over to EtherLink AI and grab the full article. We'll link it in the show notes too.
And if you're building agentic systems or evaluating platforms, the questions to ask are, does it handle hybrid retrieval? Does it support MCP for standardized tool integration? Can you swap models without redesigning the whole system? Can you audit every decision? Those are your North Stars for 2026.
Great summary. Thanks for walking through this, Sam. Folks, that's EtherLink AI Insights. We'll be back next week with more on enterprise AI production systems. Until then, keep building governed, compliant, cost-efficient AI. See you next time.